Hello friends! Knowing how to read the scale is a necessary skill when you're trying to manage your shape. Most just want the scale to go down, but there is so much more to it than that. It doesn't not only go down when you're losing body fat, and sometimes it's a very good thing that it goes up, but it will likely go up and down almost daily, and you want to know why. It is very telling for things like recovery, muscle growth, water retention, sleep changes, food sensitivities, sickness, and inflammation from training, which again could be a good thing or could not be depending on the scenario. And of course, building muscle and decreasing body fat. But you have to be able to read through all the things I just mentioned first. In part 1 of this episode, I'm sharing how to read the scale for your benefit. And then next week in part 2, the scale exercise you want to do every single morning. So let's get into it. But first, I do have some quick updates. The first one is just a personal update. We are moving next week, so I'm recording this ahead of time. Right now, we are packing everything, we are selling everything. I really have to fit everything down to 2 suitcases, so I'm working on that along with seeing a bunch of friends. I've got a dance meetup tomorrow night. I'm seeing the Bali besties. We've got a Sunday plan. I'm going to dinner with another friend tonight. We've got a 6:30 a.m. meeting tomorrow to get the new house set up. And then I have back-to-back client calls. So it's busy, but I'm feeling really good and feeling excited. And we also have to prepare the cat. So they will be on a 24-hour drive to meet us in Jakarta. And then we fly to Jakarta, then we fly to Turkey, then we fly to Washington, D.C., and then we fly to Utah. So it's definitely going to be a journey, but feeling really good, feeling really excited and just ready and grateful and excited for the next chapter. And then just a reminder, if you do want to start with me one-on-one in May, definitely reach out so we can get you set up. I can answer any questions and then we can get you set up to get started. And then lastly, the next Create Your Shape class will start in July. So you can go ahead and mark your calendar for that. And I'll be sharing more about that in the coming months. All right, let's get into reading the scale. So I shared a podcast episode around this about 2 years ago. And this time I want to take it a little bit more detailed and a little bit more advanced because it is such an important tool that everyone could really benefit from learning about. So today I'm going to go over kind of a real scenario of what this looks like to read the scale and the reasons why you want to learn this, and then the high level of how to think through reading the scale and how it breaks up into the different categories. Then next week, I'm going to go over the actual exercise that you want to be doing every morning when you get on the scale, or even before you get on the scale. I'll talk through all of that. That's going to be super helpful when you're trying to manage your shape, build muscle, decrease body fat, or just sustain it. So what happened earlier this week is I was working with one of my one-on-one clients, and she is currently in a calorie deficit phase. And so every week she's been decreasing body fat, just like we would expect. And then we had a week where she didn't. And potentially, let me tell you why. So one metric we use is the scale in daily weigh-ins. And in addition to that, we're looking at photos, we're looking at hunger, energy levels, her actual deficit. So we know that she is in a deficit because we're seeing her decrease every single week. However, we want to make sure that there is no there's no guessing, right? We want to ensure that every single week we're on track and making progress. If not, we want to know why. And so this scale on average didn't show that typical pound per week, or maybe even more than a pound per week. And so I immediately go to her daily weigh-ins and I look at, okay, is there a new low? What is the average compared to the week before? What is the end week compared to the week before? To really analyze what we're seeing here. And so it looked like throughout the week, there were a handful of ups and downs. However, she hadn't been putting the daily reasonings for that. And so normally I have my clients type in their weight and then go through the exercise that I'm going to teach you next week and share, okay, what has happened in the past 24 to 48 hours that would cause the scale to go up or down. Because there is so much more than just decreasing body fat or building muscle. There's also water retention, there's inflammation, and that can be caused from a handful of things that we have done in the past 24 to 48 hours. It could be sleep changes, it could be timing of when you weigh yourself, timing of when you had food, types of food. It could be alcohol. And so I was reading through the rest of her check-in and I noticed she had alcohol. And so I could put together like, okay, I know she had alcohol. I could probably tie it to which day she had it, because I could see when the next day the scale went up, because after alcohol, generally you're gonna have more inflammation and water retention. The scale will go up the next day. And so I could tie that, I could have that part of the story, but I needed more of the story. And she's gonna laugh because she is an absolute superstar and she's listened to every single podcast episode. And so this is just something that we haven't, tackled fully with her yet. And so now we're getting all into the details of this. And so when I asked her about it, she shared, I have no idea why the scale went up or down. I'm like, this is what we want to focus on. We want to know why, because it's going to be so telling if something is just masking your progress, which will happen. You could be decreasing body fat, but let's say you're inflamed from a training session, or you've got water retention because you had more sodium last night, then the scale's going to be up even though you're actually decreasing body fat, and then it would go back down. But we need to be able to read through all of that to know, okay, yes, we're on track here. We just had some outliers from water retention or inflammation, or we want to be able to read through that and say, oh wait, no, something we're doing is not creating the deficit. What changed? What did you maybe accidentally add in? Maybe your energy expenditure changed. Like, we want to be able to find this, because as I've emphasized, like in this podcast, it should never be a guess. It should be like, okay, yeah, if I'm trying to decrease body fat, I'm decreasing body fat each week, no problem. And I've got the data to prove it. If not, we just got to investigate and get in and be able to read through the scale as part of that to figure out why. So this is a perfect example of why we want this information and how I use it literally every single week with my clients, and how I'm investigating to ensure they're making progress. Okay, so now that we have that real life scenario, I'm gonna break down everything the scale tells you and tell you kind of at a high level, but then also how these numbers would change, and then how to use them when changing or maintaining your body composition. So break it up to two separate categories. The first category is long-term trends, and the second category is short-term fluctuations. The first category of long-term trend is going to be bone, it's going to be lean muscle mass, and then it's going to be body fat. Just those three things in long-term trends, because they do not change quickly. It takes a long time for those to change. Now, in short-term fluctuations, you have water retention, inflammation, and then food, like the actual weight of the food that is in your stomach. All right, so really quick, again, long-term trends, you have bone, lean muscle mass, and body fat. And then short-term fluctuations, you have water retention, inflammation, and food. So for long-term trends, for bone density, that really isn't going to change much. Your bones may decrease as you age, which we hope not through lifting, but that's going to be around 5 pounds. Then you have lean muscle mass. That typically, I see anywhere from 80 pounds to 110 pounds. And we generally want that to increase, right? We want that to increase 2 pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds. That takes time though. You can gain probably anywhere from 1 to 2 pounds of muscle per month, maybe a half a pound to 2 pounds per month. So that, over a year, you're gaining maybe 5 to 10, 15 pounds per year. That'd be a lot, right? And then you have body fat. So we just talked about how typically for my females, optimally, you're going to be decreasing about 1 pound of body fat per week, right? So that would be 4 to 5 pounds per month that you would be losing. Again, in a week, that's 1 pound. And then each day, if you take 1 divided by 7, maybe each day you're decreasing 0.1 or 0.2 pounds of body fat. All right. So then the other note I want to mention is that you have to have body fat to sustain your life, right? About 12% is the lowest body fat you can have and survive. And about below 18% is when it can start impacting you like negatively. So I say that to say that you have 5 pounds of bone, you've got 80 to 110 pounds of lean muscle mass, and then you have, 15 to 20 pounds of necessary body fat. Then the rest is additional body fat that you have like a wiggle room to decrease. So that, from some people I see anywhere from like 5 to 40 pounds for the ladies that I work with. So it really it changes your perspective of the scale in general. But again, these take time. That's why I call them long-term trends. And they should be trends that you see over time. So if you see this, if you want to gain muscle, right, over a month or two, you'll see the scale gradually increase, a pound to up to 3 or 4 pounds over 2 months. Do you see what I'm saying here? It's a trend, and it is a upward trend or a downward trend, and it's not a guess. Okay, so to recap, the long-term trends, you're really only going to see changes over the long term, and you're only going to look at a collection of data over weeks or days and see the averages and see how the trends are going. You cannot look at the scale and say, oh, I lost weight today just with one data point. And you can't look at it and say, oh, I gained muscle today just with one data point. You have to look at the trend. Okay, so then the next category is short-term fluctuations. These are going to change daily, and they're going to change throughout the day. So this is water retention. You may increase or decrease water retention. Could be 2 to 5 pounds is generally the range that I may see. And it could be even as small as, I know when I have pho, because the increased sodium, I'm going to be up about a pound and a half the next day just from the additional water. Then water retention generally flushes out within 1 to 3 days. Then same thing with inflammation. Inflammation can increase anywhere from like pound to 2 pounds from day to day. This may be from alcohol, or it could be from if I have lots of dairy because I am sensitive to dairy. If there is anything that is training, if you train really hard, and from that training, your body signals, hey, we need to send blood to the muscle, and we need to repair this muscle. It's going to cause inflammation. And so that the scale might be up half a pound, 2 pounds the next day. The last is food. So food is actual weight that goes into your body. This typically won't change in the day-to-day if you're hitting the same macros. However, if you have a drastic increase, let's say one day you have 50 more grams of carbs because you maybe overate, then next day the scale is going to be up just because you had that much more food. Now, there are a handful of reasons, additional reasons that can be driven from water retention or inflammation or even food. And so I'm going to list a handful now, but water retention, sodium, if you increase or decrease sodium, the cycle, where you're at in your cycle, estrogen will increase water retention, and then it will go back down after estrogen decreases. Travel, if you're dehydrated from flying, then the scale is going to go down. But then if you actually have more water in your body, which may be a good thing, right? If you're actually hydrated and you've got more water in your muscles, then that might show as an increase. Let's see, what else? The amount of carbs you have. So a lot of my clients, they'll steadily increase carbs to fuel their training, and they actually look better from it. But carbs pair with water and get stored in your muscle. Well, both of those things would cause an increase in the scale, even though you look better, right? And so that could be a half a pound or up to a pound as you increase intake. So those are a handful of things to consider. Inflammation, I talked about training. I talked about having foods that you're sensitive to. A lot of people don't even have this awareness because it's not something that they track, but then they remove foods and then they'll add it back in and then notice the next day they get inflamed from them. So I say this because it is so important to be this in tune with your body, because you get these additional benefits of like, oh, overall health of what foods I'm actually sensitive to, but it could even be sickness. If you are getting inflamed because you're starting to get sick, then the scale increases. It's something that you could actually catch early on. Okay, how do you use this when managing your body composition changes? Now, you might think, oh my gosh, there's so many variables. Like, I have no clue. There's no way I'd be able to track that all. However, we live pretty consistent days, especially when you're changing your body composition, right? You've got your routines in order. And so when you track your weight daily, you're gonna pick up on these changes. You're gonna be way more in tune with your body of, oh wow, every month during my cycle, I gain about 1.5 pounds. And so then when it's time to, you're in a deficit phase and you're tracking, oh, 1 pound per week I decrease, but then it's the week of your cycle and you're actually up 0.5 pound, then you can say, oh, okay, well, I know that I generally gain 1.5 pounds just of water weight. So if you take that, 0.5 minus that 1.5, okay, I actually am on track here. So again, you can pull out these outliers. Or it's so fun because as I work with ladies, then they tell me, at first they're like, I have no idea why the scale is moving up or down. But then they tell me, oh, I just got back from the trip. Within 3 days, I know this will be gone, right? Or I'll be back down from my inflammation. Or they'll have, they'll be dehydrated, and then the next day they'll be like, oh, I definitely didn't eat enough, or I was dehydrated, and that's why the scales decreased. And so you become so in tune with your body once you have this information, but then you can also use it to read through the scale to see, wait, was this an outlier weigh-in, or am I still trending in the right direction in terms of building muscle or decreasing body fat? All right, so that is how you want to really categorize this scale, and then breaking down of those two categories, long-term and short-term, what to think about underneath of them and how they increase or decrease. Now, I will say having a DEXA scan isn't necessary, but I do have most of my clients get them done, because then you can actually see, wait, what's my bone density? What is my lean muscle mass? What is my current body fat? And you just have a better grasp of what that scale number is made up of. It's not necessary, but it's very cool. And then it's cool to track your trends over time and just kind of confirm your shifts and changes. All right, next week we're talking about the exercise to do every single morning that actually puts this all into place so you can start utilizing this information to help you manage your body composition.